In a markedly strange year for gaming, one that fired out the gates with everything from Elden Ring to Horizon Forbidden West, Pokemon Legends Arceus to Ollie World, the release calendar has then been all over the place. After that opening salvo, we had nothing, very few head-turning titles that created conversation or made you actively excited for gaming overall. Thankfully, as the back half of the year has been filled in, it's actually starting to look stellar. The Callisto Protocol, Last of Us Part 1's full remake, indie gems like Season and Roller Dome, and even God of War Ragnarok making its release window for November. 2022 very much remains a recovery year for an industry that relies on so many moving parts to function, and while there are a ton of must-plays, go check out the best video games of 2022 video I did as well, so too are there some duds to avoid entirely. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 8 worst video games of 2022 so far. Number 8, Blade Runner Enhanced Edition. Talk about your most requested video game re-releases in the modern day. Talk about your awesome overlooked movie tie-in games too. Because the Blade Runner game, originally dropping in 1997 to mixed critical reviews but a very solid fan response, only solidified itself as a cult classic over time. A point-and-click adventure with gorgeous visuals, a stellar script, and a haunting soundtrack made to ape the 1982 Vangelis original, needless to say it's nothing short of a tragedy that this never made it to consoles. That was until 2022. Sadly, due to a nightmare of a creative process involving developers Nightdive having to recreate the entire game from scratch as EA wouldn't play ball with the original source code, we got an abysmal attempt at something still in development releasing anyway. I mean, what the hell is it with Cyberpunk games doing this over and over? Blade Runner Enhanced Edition would suffer every issue under the sun, from barely legible environments to different frame rates applied to characters, cutscenes, and interactive objects, to raw performance constantly struggling. The game has been patched with mention of more updates to come, but for such an anticipated release, this was just sad. Number 7, Sonic Origins. Sega hates Sonic. I don't know why when the blue blur helped skyrocket them into literal gaming history, but few studios show such utter disdain for what is otherwise a legendarily bankable character than Sega does Sonic. Whether we're talking about the embarrassing 25th anniversary stream barely allocating enough time to his big Xbox exclusive reboot in 2006, the abysmal Sonic Forces, or upcoming glorified Unreal Engine tech demo Sonic Frontiers, I'm constantly surprised just how much they seem to be screaming, "Stop caring about this character." Onto Sonic Origins, and what should be the definitive way to play a handful of iconic Sonic games instead comes with bugs and glitches galore. A stupidly priced special edition that treats menu animation as something to pre-order, and none of the save states, rewinds, or standard perks of modern emulation. Sega went to the trouble of delisting these games as standalone purchases across various storefronts too, with Sonic Mania developers headcanon even confirming they were a nightmare to work with, and that this Origins collection should have been far more polished with far more content. As it stands, Sonic is bigger than ever thanks to his 2022 movie sequel doing gangbusters at the box office, and yet Sega seem repelled by the idea of doing right by the character or his fans in game form. Number 6, Postal 4, No Regrets. Postal is impossible to criticize, champion, or hate. It's because it's so objectively crap and intentionally undercooked in terms of polish that the fanbase love it. In a sea of identikit first-person shooters with military themes or open-world collectathon loot systems, here's a game that lets you wee on people, set them on fire, hose down giant piles of poop, or take a rocket launcher to a crowd of NPCs before flicking the corpses a middle finger. However, you at least want your poop-based gameplay and insults to be playable, and it's here where even Postal 4's frame rate or responsiveness can't hold up. This started life in early access way back in October 2019, finally farting its way over the finish line in April 2022. Besides that being one hell of a pandemic for the developers, and props to them getting anything turned around when this is your driving force, the end result feels like a worse performing version of 2003's worst game ever, Postal 2. Number 5, Chocobo GP. While Sega can barely allow the time and money to release a 2D Sonic worth playing, Square Enix are busy uprooting everything you think you know about Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy VII Remake is now a multi-game spanning story comprising a remake of PSP title Crisis Core and mobile-only game Ever Crisis. And when Final Fantasy itself isn't having its first installment reimagined as Dark Souls meets Five Finger Death Punch, it's getting a painfully assembled kart racer sequel because why not? Now, Chocobo GP's core gameplay is pretty tight and enjoyable. beautiful. Its presentation is largely super colorful and inviting, and who doesn't want to unlock a chibi cloud-riding Fenrir with his massive Buster Sword? No, it's in everything surrounding this idea where Squeenix went to town milking the fandom for all they're worth. Like Final Fantasy or The Bravest, sometimes a set of predatory microtransaction systems surrounding acquisition of characters and items just needs to be called out. Chocobo GP was dead on arrival back in March thanks to twinning a AAA price point with a mobile game feel. And though there have been a series of patches and apologies, this is an insulting follow-up to that 1999 original. Number 4, Crossfire X. Feeling like some weird contractual agreement only a handful of people know the real story behind, Max Payne, Alan Wake, and Control developer Remedy randomly dropped the campaign half of first-person shooter Crossfire X back in February. Playing fine enough, the issue is just how soulless the entire setup feels. A pair of ultra-short 3 to 4 hour campaigns reducing such an artistic and individually minded studio to kicking out a Call of Duty clone from just after 2007. While there are whiffs of what we know as Remedy and the game has a neat fear-like use of slow motion, the company appear to be embarking on a much larger play for global recognition. December saw them partner with Tencent to announce Vanguard, another shooter, this time free-to-play that doesn't sound like it plays to their strengths whatsoever yet again. Maybe this is the only way to get things like an Alan Wake 2 off the ground, and that will no doubt feel far more like a Remedy game in marketing and execution than this, but you can't help but feel genuine confusion about all things Crossfire X and Remedy right now. Number 3, Diablo Immortal. With a Metacritic score that's only dropping each and every day, Blizzard's attempt to design a free-to-play Diablo that directly exploits its most long-standing fans resulted in the biggest backlash of 2022 so far. Being in development for at least 4 years, its 2018 reveal resulting in the now iconic "is this a late April Fool's joke" meme from BlizzCon, Immortal's final form is riddled with some of the worst microtransactions in Blizzard and gaming history. While you do get a premium-feeling Diablo for free, the reality is that every aspect of the game's endgame is monetized to hell and back. With timers and randomization governing the best gear you'll need for high-level quests and especially PvP, it's clear Immortal is made to exploit the exact fandom that got the Diablo IP to where it is today. Infuriatingly though, Blizzard's approach has paid dividends. Immortal has reported a staggering take of over $40 million in microtransactions, taking just over $1 million every single day since launch. An ugly, gross, unwanted example of mobile gaming practices meeting console or PC quality gameplay, there's no doubt every developer under the sun will learn every money-focused lesson possible from this game. Number 2, eFootball 2022. On paper, a free-to-play evolution of the legendary Pro Evolution Soccer series was gold. Get one of the best football games on the planet in front of people for free and figure out some respectable way to monetize them all year long, rather than factor in unit sales and aggressive Ultimate Team microtransactions like FIFA does. In reality though, this just wasn't finished. The original release was September 2021, but eFootball was received so disastrously, we're talking literal heads from players detaching, bodies contorting and physics bugging out, that it's been a long road to the game's 1.0 patch in April 2022. Now with a fresh version on iOS and that patch in play, it's the same old BS. eFootball's base performance problems have been improved, but the core game was clearly designed to be filled in over time. Offense and defense have a terrible balance of animation priority versus responsiveness, and it's clear across 2022 that under the guise of being free to play, Konami are still testing the market to see what they can get away with. And number 1, Babylon's Fall. There have been a lot of sad games released on this list, and in honesty, sometimes the gaming industry's constant push towards boring bankable mechanics and arbitrary loot systems is just that. Sad and boring. Babylon's Fall then is everything we're patently sick of across the industry, forced into one hell of an ugly shell. The sadness comes from realizing this was made by Platinum Games, the same studio that brought us mega hits and cult classics respectively, like Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. For such a tight, well-oiled studio to get fully enveloped by Square Enix's worst business practices is nail on the head the worst part of gaming incarnate. Babylon's Fall is at all times a soulless, churned-out money spinner of a game, having serviceable combat attached to microtransactions, loot grinds, boring arenas of enemies, and everything in between. You've played this game, you've played 10 of these games, and it's about time we all moved on. And those are our picks for the worst video games of 2022 so far. Let me know your own choices down in the comments below, and please subscribe to the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com, and I'll catch you soon.